gentlemen, welcome to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I'm, of course, Nick McDaniel, and as always, I'm joined by Bubba Myron.
Good day, folks. I'm glad to announce that in most marketplaces, this show is coming to you at a discount thanks to Tapped Out Prime Days. That's going on right now, isn't it, Nick?
I have no idea. I don't keep up with anything Prime other than the shows and stuff. I don't.
It's prime time here on the show. Let's talk about it, Nick. Come on. What happened last night?
Well, dude, there's a whole lot of stuff going out. But before we get jumped in, I want to make sure we do a little housekeeping before we get started. I want to make sure, usually I've been holding it off to later in the show, but I want to make sure all of our listeners and all of the people watching us on our YouTube channel fully aware of jmartinandcompany.com, pressure washing, window cleaning, gutters, roofs, all that big shit that you want done, take care of. Man, not only are the prices good, the service is phenomenal. They take care, like I told you, man, go back through my feed on Facebook. I shared some pictures of they took care of my driveway for me. It's a pretty big driveway, and they took did a great job on that. So again, check them out over at jmartinandcompany.com. You can find them actually on Facebook as well. Hit them up on there. That's the easiest way I find to get a hold of them, is just shoot them a message over on Facebook. They're usually pretty quick about getting back with you. So anyways, also before we get started, Myron, always want to share with everybody watching, make sure you're subscribing on YouTube, because clearly, hands down, we see week in and week out, YouTube is the new home for the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast.
Oh, yes.
Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast, the handle on YouTube is @TappedOutPod. Make sure you like the page, subscribe to the page, turn your notifications on, all that. Hell, become a member, get all the bonus stuff that's behind the scenes there as well, over on youtube.com, Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast.
It's everybody's favorite source because you get to see us.
Yeah, exactly, man. I mean, look, we get it. There's still some podcast listeners out there, but you can see us, and we're
Sit
easy
down
on the eyes.
Get us on the TV and have your whole family sit down and watch us. Little fire in the fireplace. It's a great show for the kids.
Well, man, speaking of sitting down and great shows for the kids, last night, because obviously we're recording on Wednesday, as you probably know. Look, ratings aren't even in, and ratings be damned. We're not even going to need the numbers to have this conversation, I don't feel like. NXT goes head-to-head with Dynamite. Title Tuesday on Dynamite, and Jesus Christ, NXT just threw everything under the sun at it. And we're going to get into what we think. Winners and losers, I think we probably are both on the same page. In our opinion, NXT won the night. Look, we're going to get into some arguments about, all right, hell, let's do it now.
Okay.
It showed how loaded they can be when they want to be, even for like the C show. You called it. I mean, you said it was the C show, right?
Well, I don't know. I'd hate to pick an A or a B show among Raw and SmackDown.
Oh, I can do it easily.
What's your favorite?
I think SmackDown's the A show. It used to. So even though Raw's the flagship show, I'm throwing up air quotes for those listening on the podcast, I think in general SmackDown is the A show because it's on broadcast television, network television. It's not on cable. I think over the years it's changed. Now when it goes back to USA, we might see that change go back, in my opinion. That's just my humble opinion for what that's worth.
Yes.
So I think it's right now, it's, in my opinion, it's SmackDown, it's Raw, and then NXT, obviously for developmental purposes. That's kind of the why. But that's just my take on it.
Can you really call that developmental anymore? Can you call that, what we saw last night, was that one developmental?
You know what? I would beg to differ. It was hell of a developmental situation. And I'll tell you why. Lots of stuff was learned. And I know some people are like, oh, well, John Cena, had an interaction where he basically got the best of Braun Breaker. I was like, did he though? Braun Breaker got to be in the ring with John Cena. Carmelo Hayes got exposed to people because John Cena was on there in his corner. Paul Heyman drew eyes. Asuka drew eyes. And she, so now people saw Roxy Perez. You know what I mean? I mean, like, you got to put it in perspective.
Yes. Roxy Perez, I thought, was the best things they had. I thought she was a super marketable talent that was coming up. Then you put her with Asuka, and you legitimize her more, and she gets matches with the better talent. and she looks better. You can't tell me having Tiffany Stratton down there with Becky hadn't helped Tiffany Stratton.
Like, because here's what I want to interject real quick and let you finish your thought. My point is, if Asuka had wrestled Becky on NXT, what's the point?
Wouldn't have helped anybody.
But when they are interacting with that younger talent and help bring them along, 100%. And listen, people can shit on him all they want. Dom, Dirty Dom, Dominic Mysterio, bouncing between the two shows. Because listen, we all thought, and apparently rumors were, they wanted to send him to NXT, right? But they didn't or couldn't because of the reactions he was getting.
Mm-hmm.
But he's still going down there. He's getting to work, I'm sure, with those talents and stuff while he's down there.
He is 3-show Dom. Okay, think about it.
Yeah.
He is on every damn show they have.
Well, right now, that's the Judgment Day. They are.
Yeah. But he is universally hated. It's just the rub they get when they come down there. These kids are getting used to seeing how these people perform in the ring, how these people interact with the crowds, how they should interact with talent. It's a learning experience on live television. I don't think it gets any more like, okay, you're right. It's developmental. It's the highest level of developmental you could get.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I don't know what you could tell me would put more eyes on Braun Breaker than that interaction with The Undertaker to end NXT.
Okay, yeah. You could have I love Cena. I love LA Knight, Asuka, Jade Cargill bit. I love everything else. You took everything off that show and then just had Taker roll out and do that bit. And I just said it won the night because I remember Taker from all those WrestleManias. I remember Taker when I was a little kid. Okay? Think about it. Mean Mark Callis. Think about his span in professional wrestling, how much he covered of our lives. And AEW, you got it. But to me, the only person's wrestling opinion that I care about is mine. I don't give two shits about Dave Meltzer's. I don't care about Smart Fans. I don't care about anything else. I care about what I like. Now, I come on here and tell you my opinion. But if you don't like my opinion, I don't really care. These are my opinions. Dave Meltzer's opinions don't matter to me. Once I saw Undertaker, your entire reviews and your wonderful matches with Bryan Danielson and all this other stuff, you could put 1,000 of those out there and I won't care.
So, speaking of Undertaker, I saw this little theory that floated out last night, this morning. Wanted to get your take on it. The promo he cuts on a fallen Braun Breaker, and basically say, so it's twofold. One, it's when they're standing face to face and he makes the comment, you're going to be special, someday you're going to be special. Tonight's not that night. He choke slams him, does all that. Then he leans over and basically says, there's always an older, bigger, badder dude around the corner, and you met the baddest, one, basically baddest one, tonight. Some people are theorizing that promo wasn't just for Braun Breaker. That promo was for Tony Khan as well, saying, listen, you're special, and you're going to be really special. But tonight's not your night, kid. We're going to show you why we are the WWE.
You know what? When you put this in the notes, this first time I thought about it, because I was not giving two shits about Tony Khan when I watched this show. Tony Khan did not exist to me during this show. I was a kid watching The Undertaker. And you might be right. It makes perfect sense now that would have been aimed at Tony Khan. But I didn't care. It could have been aimed at Jesus Christ and all the angels. And I wouldn't have cared. Undertaker did that promo, and he did something that Undertaker does. And the Undertakered, and everything else was Undertakerly, Nick. And that's all I cared about.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
on
what I'm
board.
saying. The reason it's done so well is it's like, look, I don't even know if it's true. That's not what I'm saying. That theory floating out there. Look, let's say if it was true, what's great about it, like you did on the surface, it was directed at Braun Breaker. It was Undertaker being Undertaker. If you wanted to kind of read between the lines and go below the surface of it, could it be interpreted that way? Sure, it could. So it's well written if that's the case, because it could be, even though it may not have been, right?
Yeah.
And listen, I think what it proves to me, and I had an analogy with my wife I'm going to get to here in a second. I want you to hear this. I'm gonna compare this thing to the NFL. This everything that went down last night. WWE has decades of a head start on AEW. There's absolutely nothing, and this is kind of where I always wish they would just let it be. They stop getting into comparisons and start getting the battle, and because they can roll out generational talents for the feels like they did to you. They strolled
Oh yeah,
Undertaker out there.
I'm totally
Think
a field.
about this. AEW cannot pull out a generational talent of theirs. Now, they can stroll Adam Copeland out there, and they can, but it's just not the same, because just my honest take, when you stroll Adam Copeland out there, you're trying to play to a WWE crowd. You want that nostalgia of Edge, from WWE, and you're playing into that crowd. WWE has they have John Cena, they have Undertaker, they have an Austin when they need to pull that trigger. All of those things. Shawn Michaels strolls out casually on your TV because he's running NXT now. And what I told her is, I said, listen, my comparison would be, why does listen, by the way, and everybody's fully aware, I don't like using the comparison. It was just for her because it strikes a chord with her. Why does the Dallas Cowboys have more fans than the Jacksonville Jaguars? Because the Cowboys have been around forever. There are fans of the Cowboys whose grandpas were fans of the Cowboys.
Was it legacy fans?
It's a legacy fan, correct. There are guys who live in Atlanta who are Cowboys fans because their dad and their granddad were Cowboys fans when
Or
they
the
lived in
Falcons were
Texas.
here.
But all kinds of Jacksonville, they were an expansion team. They haven't been around as long, that type of thing. So yeah, at best, your dad was a Jaguars fan. At best, and not it's not like they've had a long tenured run of greatness, or anything like that to back it up.
There's no Tom Landry.
Correct. There is.
Tom Landry is the Ric Flair or the Dusty Rhodes of wrestling to us. Okay. And I thought about this myself. I sat here and tried to make analogies myself. I didn't have anything to talk to about it because my wife didn't want to talk about anything having to do with wrestling last night. But I thought about it, and nobody's really wrong here, Nick. I'm not arguing with AEW fans. I'm not one of these guys that gets on here and fights with people about who won last night. You and I both grew up with the same type of wrestling. We grew up where maybe the match was a payoff to the drama that led to it. And there's a younger generation where the match itself was the focus of the whole thing. That Japanese style, that super smart mark style, the super indie style, where you came to see a matchmaker style, not a booker style wrestling, but a matchmaker style wrestling. We were always told why the match mattered, the build up for the match emotionally, not just that we were going to have a great match. It might be two old fat guys getting in there bumping onto each other and stuff. We didn't really care about the work rate. We cared about why
Is that a learned habit? I always come back to that. The more we've done the show, I always ask, was that a learned habit? Like over time, we were told work rate mattered in the sense of like a great match and what a great match looks like. This is what a great match looks like. Meltzer star ratings. There's a generation, by the way, going back to there's a generation that grew up on the star ratings mattered. And that's why there were people arguing in the case. Nothing on NXT compared to Daniel Bryan versus Swerve Strickland. And my argument was, technically, match was fine.
There's no way it wasn't supposed to. There is no reason it should have. It shouldn't have compared. That's your main product. You should have had the greatest matches you possibly could have provided. The best thing you could have done. That should have been a Raw or a SmackDown level matches or a W pay-per-view level matches. You were fighting against developmental. The matches were not WWE.
Okay, I'm still going to push back on that a little bit because of all of the bonuses they threw at that show. There were too many major players on that show to say that show. It's a developmental product, yes. I think between all of social media and on Raw and SmackDown kind of saying all these people were going to NXT, I think that kind of is going to be a drastic help. Like, here's the thing. I thought AEW was a good Dynamite episode. But it was just another Dynamite episode, which, by the way, is not a knock on them. They put 2 title matches on there. I mean, like, people were acting like, oh, they put all these well, there are more, but you know what I'm saying. They're like, they've never done that before. Like, they've done that before on Wednesdays. I mean, Jesus Christ, they run the Arthur Ashe Stadium on a Wednesday, just because. So it's not like they did anything. And by the way, I'm not knocking them for it. I actually commend that they just ran what they typically ran. The problem is, do they do that too often? Might be the question. But with them loading up on NXT, let's summarize it up with this. If AEW loses, who cares? If WWE or NXT wins, who cares? You know what I mean? I just don't know that it matters either way at this point, because I felt like the shows were 2 different products at that point.
It was 2 dramatically different products.
I do want to ask you, on Eric Bischoff's podcast this week, he makes a pretty you know what? Let me look in the notes, because I'm going to come to that later. Okay. I'm going to come back to that later. I want to save that. So bookmark that, folks. We're going to come back to something that Eric Bischoff said about ratings. Yeah. Let's go ahead and move on. Let's get to Fastlane, because we're going to go through that pretty quick. I mean, honestly, Fastlane happened. Lots that I loved about it.
Yes.
I love the fact that it was 5 matches.
Yes.
I love the fact that it was cut pretty quick.
Yes.
It wasn't a super long pay-per-view. They were in and out. But how about like 5 matches, but long matches?
Quality. The WB has been doing this lately. They've been giving you smaller number of smaller number of matches, much better matches though. Been able to focus. Now there's been talent. They used to try to squeeze everybody that had a contract on these pay-per-views. Now they're focusing on the head story. They'll work certain storylines to a head, and then they'll have another storyline over here that'll work to a head for the next pay-per-view. They focus on these quality matches. The Shinsuke Seth match was amazing. I really enjoyed the women's match. I don't think anybody can say anyone is looking better than Charlotte right now. I mean, Charlotte, that's probably the best shape I've ever seen Charlotte in.
Yeah.
But you get these matches where you get focus on them. You get to focus on these people. You get a good long match here, you get a short match there. You get what you want to see out of this.
Dude, they were all long. And I don't mean it like it's the negative. I mean, they were like 16, 20, 25. I mean, they were longer matches. And like you said, I do like the concept of saying, why try to jam 8 or 9 matches on a PLE? Just if you're doing 12, I know you don't like it always, because you brought up the argument a while back about like, why was Gunther defending the Intercontinental title on a SmackDown or a Raw instead of on the PLE? And I'm like, why not? I mean, if it's going to happen this week, who says it has to happen on the PLE? Put the match on Raw or SmackDown, wherever the hell that, he's on Raw. I mean, you know what I'm saying? But you get where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Like, and then with women's matches, like Becky defending the title on Raw or NXT or whatever, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, all right, cool. I felt like when we were, because we got into the position, like you said, when we were talking about the storytelling, we were shoving stories through because we had to get to the next pay-per-view 3 or 4 weeks later. Why? Let that story build and let it build for 7 weeks, and then it's worthy of the PLE.
Make you want to see the PLE. Make you
Yeah.
have storylines you really want to watch. And that's Triple H. And
Yeah.
I really do think the rumors I hear are true that Triple H is got really back control of everything. Vince was brought in just to get through the deal. Triple H really is the guy.
Well, I think Vince is a business side at this point. But by the way, anybody who doesn't think his father-in-law can get in his ear at the dinner table, or okay, you're nuts. I don't think he'll ever be completely gone.
No.
Although officially it could be he is totally in control. But I think Vince he's a business asset.
The complaints department at WWE is they don't really have one. People who complain about their booking, it falls on deaf ears because they've been doing it for a long time and they don't care.
Yep.
Remember that.
100%. Well, complaining, there's somebody who does a lot of that. But before we get to that, I'll tell you something that you won't complain about, Myron. If you're a betting man like me and football is in its prime season right now with the NFL, make sure every week you're checking out our friends over at Prize Picks.
You still working on this?
It's 2 minutes to kickoff. Who do I pick?
2 words, Prize Picks. It's so easy. Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. It's just you against the number. Simply pick the over-under on 2 or more players, and that's it. You can win up to 10 times your money in just one day. Join over 150,000 people who found a better way to play. Download the Prize Picks app today and get your first deposit match up to $100.
That's right, man. Check out our friends over at Prize Picks. Promo codes are in the show notes. Check those out. And they're doing matches up to $100 right now. So check them out over at Prize Picks. I use the app. I prefer the app over the website, but that's just me because I'm always doing that kind of stuff on the go. But speaking of stuff coming and going, man, rumors are flying every week. We're not going to spend a ton of time on this because I pretty much want to throw up every time we talk about this.
I'm so sick of it.
CM Punk, is he or isn't he coming? Listen, in the grand scheme of things, my take is I don't know that it matters either way.
I think it could have helped. It also is like saying, I'm going to get this disease to fight this disease. Okay. Do you need Punk? I mean, is the benefit Punk brings worth the negative Punk brings? Okay.
I don't think he's going to bring any of that negatives to thing. I think there's enough leadership in that locker room to keep it in check. That's the big difference.
He starts pulling that shit on Triple H.
Yeah. So here's the thing. There's a difference between a kid's testing you or a kid's already tested you and he knows you're not going to put up with it. That kid's not going to test you as much typically, right? That's kind of the case. If he comes in, by the way, it's a real simple thing. It's real simple. He probably realizes it's his last opportunity, to prove himself. Look, I've always stood behind, I think he's overrated. Doesn't mean I don't think he's good. I don't think he's as good as he once was. But again, there's still some value there. That's always my take.
Either.
Do you need him? No. Would it hurt? No. So if he does or he doesn't, we'll see. Some people are saying, hey, it's a no. Some people are saying it is, blah, 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 back and forth. I would lean no on any given day just because they don't really need him. They've got a lot of positive
He's like
momentum.
an extra donut. Okay? You don't really need that extra donut. But that extra donut kind of, you want that extra donut.
Mm-hmm.
It might give you diabetes down the road, but you'll take it today. You'll look at that extra donut. You say, maybe that extra donut's great. Maybe that extra donut really would make me feel better about this morning if I eat that extra donut. I just don't think about it. But the whole thing with CM Punk is there's one or two people just won't shut up about this shit. And they're making it an issue. And I think it caused more problems than CM Punk and all this other things combined, Nick. And it's these people that won't stop talking about it.
Well, listen, we're part of the problem. We're talking about it right now.
Yeah, but we're not stirring it up and we're not baiting these people.
Well,
some of these other.
I get that part, but like I said, I just think there is some history there. There are some stories that could be told. Um, like I said, if it could sell some tickets, it could sell some subs, so be it. Peacock subscriptions, sure, so be it. But we'll see. In general, I would say pass, but that's just my take. So, we're just gonna move on. I don't want to, like I said, I told you I didn't want to talk a ton about it. It seemed like it's dominated the week a little bit. About he was in, he was out.
Tired of it.
So something came up this week. We're gonna talk about some stuff, guys, we don't normally talk about. NWA was in the news. They're bringing back territories, quote unquote. Yes. So Exodus Pro, which I guess is EC3's promotion, essentially. Is that what I'm? Is now going to be NWA Exodus Pro. They're going to start trying to do like affiliates or territories for the NWA. I guess him and Corgan have this idea. Look, I'm just going to throw it out to begin with. I don't see it working, but I admire the effort. I do. I really do.
Okay. Well, since the original NWA was based on the territory system, a unification of the territory system, and since they're using EC3's his independent promotion to start with, so it's going to be in-house. It's going to be a more of a controlled variable than the regular promotion. So this experiment on the surface looks positive, looks promising. It's going to be, and if they put the right people into it, this particular part looks good. This step one looks good. Step two is where I worry. Step two is where I don't understand. Who is going to be the next promotion?
Well, I don't know that anybody's probably eagerly jumping. That's what I'm thinking. Look, if it's EC3's promotion, he's the NWA champion. It kind of makes sense for that to happen.
Exactly.
Anybody else, you couldn't probably sell it on me.
So yeah.
I have a theory. I mean, how about do it organically and naturally? I don't know what rates are for NWA champions, whether it be the world champion, the women's champion, the TV champion. Don't throw out what you're gonna. I know what you're gonna want to respond with. I have a ballpark of what the numbers were at one point. I don't know if those numbers are still there. If it was affordable to a lot of the promotions, the bigger promotions, and when I'm regionally, how about maybe work with some of those promotions to get some? Look, I get it. You might not think EC3 needs exposure, but if you're Southern Honors, your Southern Honors, your IWEs, your Actions, and I know IWTV has their own world champion. I understand that. With if you could still bring in to some of these Jesus, I said it and I didn't mean to. These promotions, how about working with them and try to send in your women's champion, your TV champion, or your world champion, and have them work shows and organically develop a relationship with multiple of the indies and grow that exposure. Because here's the thing, if they see, EC3 is the NWA world champion, there's an older audience that knows that NWA name. And he's on YouTube, and try to build out your brand.
Like a touring champion in the old days.
Correct.
Like somebody who goes from promotion to promotion. Maybe you don't want to start with picking up promotions. Maybe you need to audition promotions. Maybe you need to send your champion around to be in those locker rooms and see what he thinks. There are promotions I would love to bring into a circuit. I would love to see that promotion benefiting from something like that. Dude, AML, I think, is a great one.
Right.
For something like this. Game GCW, I wouldn't want those people in any kind of thing like this, because I think they bring something detrimental with all that stuff that they do. There's places for everyone at the wrestling table. I just don't know if they're on this end of the table for NWA. I think if they send people around and they judge the talent, and Corgan isn't overstepping, and if they trust people like Bill Barons and some of these other people that have been in the business for a million years, and was around when the NWA was territory. And remember when Wildside was a territory and that kind of thing. Take your time, build it organically. Don't overreach. Maybe.
Myron,
this would work.
We have a full example of how this is, if you want to take an approach to it. We saw Kenzie Paige Henry twice defend that title twice. Once against Crystal Rose, and then Danny Jordan, which we're going to discuss that match in a little bit when we get to the Southern Honor stuff. But, dude, it was back full swing into our attention again.
Yes.
Why not? Even if you're just sending your women's champion around for a little while, and then you send your TV champion around for a little while, and then your men's later. Look, if you want to be super selective and you're only say, hey, we only send our NWA World Champion to shows that are averaging 1,000 people. Okay, it's going to be a smaller number, but I understand. I get it. But so be it. Or you got to have average 500, 750. Make up a number. Who gives a shit?
Or have people that are connected.
Correct. Something to that effect.
Like Dylan and them that are in with DDP, and other people that are like OVW that were connected with Al Snow and things like that. And you work on this insider connection type thing. There's also so many ways of working this. Corgan needs to listen, and I'm going to say it again, to Bill Behrens. That's my take on it, and I don't think it could succeed without his influence.
No, I think there's a lot to be learned there. I just, like I said, the territory system, do I think it'll work? No, but that doesn't matter what I think. That's just my opinion. But I would probably try to do, like you said, do some more of the touring like we talked about. Well, So anyway, let's move along. Now, again, something you never typically hear us talk about, and that's on us, by the way. I punched myself in the head about it, about we don't talk about it enough, and so we felt like, hey, we've got to talk about this a little bit.
Well, I mean, how much wrestling can we talk about, Nick?
Well, we're going to find out today. That's our thing. Today we're trying to find out. Wow, women's wrestling. A tweet went out and it pointed out some stuff. Rampage. By the way, I'm good. This is where I'm going to bring in an Eric Bischoff conversation here in a minute. Rampage 363,000. I think that Collision was 337, not 237. I just can't type worth of shit on my notes. And WOW was 428 that same week. There's so many layers to this, by the way. I think you kind of have to. This is going to be one of those scenarios, by the way, where two things can be true. Kudos and congrats to WOW. That's one. I think it was a very terrible week to try to do this comparison. But
it's wrestling comparisons, and those things.
Collision was head-to-head with Fastlane. Rampage is in a shitty time slot. So my argument is Collision's 337. I mean, dude, they were head-to-head with Fastlane, a PLE that we just sit there and talked about how much we loved.
Excellent.
Collision didn't stand a chance because we wanted to see John Cena and LA Knight. We wanted to see Cody and Jay, wrestle for the tag titles. So, it is what it is. Here's my sidebar real quick, by the way. When we're discussing Collision going, against head-to-head with a WWE product, Fastlane in this particular case, it's not the first, and it ain't going to be the last Saturday pay-per-view they go head-to-head with, by a long shot. Bischoff has pointed out now the last few times they've gone head-to-head, Collision's taken a pretty significant hit. And his theory is we may be underestimating the number of people that watch AEW that watch WWE. And when WWE's on, they choose WWE. He does not think the audience that a big audience of WWE doesn't necessarily watch AEW. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I've been on the same ballpark for a while. I hate to dig out with a microphone and walk over here what it sounds like, folks, but yeah, and I'm gonna kind of fear to see the ratings after this Tuesday night thing. I think a lot of negativity were going to come out towards AEW. That there are wrestling fans. There are people that are just plain wrestling fans who will watch wrestling any time it comes on television. There are not just, I'm an AEW fan or I'm a WWE fan. People are just wrestling fans and watch every single wrestling program that comes on because they love it that much, regardless of who the brand is. But
I do think though there is the audience, because there's 3 audiences, and let's break them apart fast because I promised you I didn't want to go long. There's an audience who just watches AEW and that's it. I think it's a very small niche market. There's a audience that just watches WWE. I think it's a bigger audience. It's a casual fan base, and it's a bigger audience. And I think the one that watches both is significantly probably bigger than we thought, when looking at the numbers. By the way, I don't know why. I have this crazy notion that the numbers aren't going to be that far apart. Like, I think people are thinking NXT is going to do 1.2 million, 1.3 million, and Dynamite's going to be at like 600, 500 or 600,000.
No,
I don't see. I see it being much closer than that.
I would say,
and by the way, let me ask you this: would you be stunned if Dynamite won?
Yes.
The ratings number. Why?
Because of all the talent. I'll be honest with you. All the talent. I would be surprised if they won. I'm assuming based on Nick. We've been doing this for almost 8 years now, and looking at numbers, thousands, hundreds, millions. I'm going to predict NXT is going to be in the 800,000s. AEW is going to be in the 600,000s. That's my ranges. I would say high 600s, low 800s for NXT.
If NXT doesn't get 900,000, I think it's a disappointment. With as much ammo as they went at with it, I think it's a disappointment if they don't do 900,000. I was thinking it's like closer to probably about 950.
To what for AEW?
Honestly, what number do we get? Are we going to do? Because here's the thing: if they're counting same day DVR, versus are they counting? Because here's the thing: I watched. By the way, I'm full disclosure. I watched NXT for the first time in forever, from start to finish. Didn't flip the channel. I flipped it at all. And then binge watch through AEW super fast.
I tried. Okay. I tried watching AEW. The commercial. Okay. I tried watching it. I got about halfway through. I was hoping for a commercial during the commercial free period. The Tony Storm shit, Nick. What is that? What in God's name is that?
Actually, I think it's kind of cool. I like it because it's different. It's one of the most WWE things they do.
Okay. I'm trying to come up with a reference that's just not horribly obscene. But just because it's different doesn't mean it's good. Okay. I don't want to watch it. I stopped. I'm not going to watch the second half. I didn't pay any attention. I wrote my notes for the show while it was going on. I went up and ate some fried chicken and a baked potato and came downstairs to watch NXT, which I barely fast forwarded through the commercials for because I had to. And then I don't like picture in picture. That's my complaint about any of this stuff is I don't like picture in picture. Just let me get through the damn commercial break and get back to my wrestling. Okay. But that's just me being the crankiest old man in wrestling podcasting. NXT is my show. I watch NXT almost every week. I always watch Raw and SmackDown. NXT is my third choice. any other AEW show is my 5th or 6th choice.
Well, see, but then I would argue you missed one of the best things. There's lots of stuff to like about the main.
I love
really enjoyed
MJF. I really love MJF on anything. I wish I could
the
watch.
AEW. I love the Adam Copeland stuff. I thought that was done well. There's lots of that stuff.
His name is Edge.
He's Adam Copeland.
Okay. The other guy's name is Christian.
He's still Christian.
Okay.
It's Christian Cage to be exact, but
his name is Edge, and his name is Christian. They've got Matt and Jeff Hardy. They've got badass Billy Gunn. Okay. I'm sorry. You've got my feels over there. You've got my wrestlers over there, but they're still my WBE wrestlers. I hate to slack this, but I like the promo style, and I like everything about WBE because it's what I grew up watching. That's my formative style of what I watch.
Right, but you got to branch it out there. I mean, that's the whole point. I mean, it's that's the whole point of what you have with it's the alternative. You're in that audience that I'm talking about that's only watching one. That's okay. It's not bad. That's just not that's not that you're in a bigger pie than the smaller pie.
I've always been in the bigger pies.
I've never been in a small pie. We completely lost focus. Let's go back to the point at hand.
Like big pies, and I cannot lie.
We were talking about about that getting the bigger pie than Rampage and Collision and stuff like that. So how about this? They're on syndication and they're not even in a regular time slot always. And
Folks love wrestling. You remember watching Glow as a young man?
Yes.
Was Glow not a part of a formative part of what you enjoyed with wrestling? And I'm not talking about the trashy women in lingerie stuff. I'm talking about the goofy storyline.
Well, I want to be clear that the biggest difference between those is where we're at in two different places with the talents that are in the ring on top of just, look, Glow was what it was. And let's be honest with it. WOW's not that. Look, it's run by a woman to empower women. Is it entertaining? And 100%. But they also get that they're an all-women show that's entertaining. That's what sets them apart, makes them different. And when people get into but what about when they run out of money? I don't know about all that. The people behind it, Jeannie Buss is behind this thing. She's empowering women, and that's, it's a big thing for her. And I was joking with somebody yesterday he's in the finance world, and I'm kind of like, tax breaks probably not hurting Jeannie Buss either if she's wanting to write some stuff off. So it's not, but I think in the grand, by the way, I don't think they are. That's not my take. My take is I think she's doing it for a lot of the right reasons. And I think WOW deserves a lot of the respect and the praise. How about taking some of that shit that you're throwing on Tony Khan? And I'm not saying that's bad, by the way. All that praise you're dumping on him about creating jobs and keeping people working and giving somebody an alternative to watch. Isn't that WOW?
Yeah.
Like they're creating jobs for women. They're creating, exposure in the business for wrestling women. It's an alternative.
And my dog Nigel, man. That guy right there is one of the hardest working people in professional wrestling. That guy right there is good at what he does.
Yeah.
And he's working for him. And he's, like I said, he gets to have an awesome wrestling experience. So impressed with everything they're doing right now.
So here's one for you, Meyer. You want to come back for somebody down the road? Man, I wish WWE would bring back that Women's Evolution pay-per-view. It'd be an all-women show. I'd like to see one of them fucking turn on WOW every week. How about that? It's an all-women show every single week. You see what I mean? I'm like, dude, there's your answer. It's something different. Watch it and support it because it's doing really well. But it wouldn't hurt to have more help, right? That wouldn't hurt.
And if more people watch it, you'll get more women's wrestling on WBE, and you'll get more women's wrestling on AEW.
If you don't think the viewership of WOW climbing and climbing and climbing would at least draw the attention of WWE and go, man, maybe we could try some more.
And have you noticed?
I don't know. How about AEW might focus on it?
WBE has been adding more women's wrestling to every show. NXT has had more women's wrestling on shows.
Yeah.
And maybe, just maybe, it's WOW's fault, or WOW's, whatever the word you're looking for here.
The credit goes to WOW.
Credit. Okay.
Speaking of credit to WOW, Myron, before we get into talking about what we did this past week, we got to talk about our Pro Wrestling Tees segment. The Pro Wrestling Tees shirt of the week. This week, we're going with WOW, Women's of Wrestling. Check them out. They have their own shirts over there on, and they've got some of the talents under, that work on there as well. We just wanted to promote WOW, Women of Wrestling, Pro Wrestling Tees. Pick up a shirt, pick up multiple shirts from the women that, the talents that work on that show. And look, pick up one of ours while you're there if you want. That'd be awesome. But like I said, we wanted to make sure you're checking them out. Yeah, they have a Pro Wrestling Tees store, ProWrestlingTees.com. Check them out and just type in WOW or Women's of Wrestling. It'll come up for you, man. Because that selling merch, that'll get it. Yeah, exactly.
Everywhere I go, man, I'm repping Pro Wrestling Tees. If they made my full wardrobe, I couldn't be happier. This stuff is super durable, super wonderful, does not shrink. That's very important in large man's clothing.
Myron's looking for some good sporty looking polos that he can wear with some khakis to go out to some of the dining establishments with his woman. So if anybody wants to design some polos.
Most of them I just wear Pro Wrestling Tees t-shirts. Now,
yeah, we're trying to upgrade you for her, Myron. We're trying to get you for dinners and things like that.
Well, maybe if you could come up with some Pro Wrestling Tees sweats and hoodies.
Okay, again, we're trying to upgrade you for dinners, like date nights and things like that.
Hey, no. I did dig through and find some nice clothes to wear at Mr. Garrett's Hakalaka's going away party. Bye, Garrett. I miss you already.
Yeah. So,
but that's all I got, man. Bye, Garrett.
Yeah. But now let's dive into what we saw this past weekend. We're running long, so we got to make sure we keep in the constraints here. Great show on Friday night, Southern Honor Wrestling. Stories galore. I mean, so much stuff to talk about. I'm going to jump all over the place. Nathan and Sonny. Let's start there. Sunny Days and Nathan, Maori, just tore the house down literally, diving off ladders, using signs, chairs, gusset plates, hacksaws. I mean, you name it.
I try. Look, I love those two guys. I'm not Mr. Deathmatch, but I enjoyed this match. Unfortunately, if they come near me like that again, I'm going to have to run faster. Okay. And I don't have time to condition myself. So I'm going to need a higher place to stand. Y'all might have to let me into production so they can't come near me, because I don't want to get hit, folks. That was a wonderful, enjoyable match. Tank and Reverend Dan coming out. I enjoyed myself. It was good.
Yeah, there was lots of smoke and mirrors, Sal getting involved, all that stuff. Great match. Now that we've seen it in person, look, we've seen video and things like that. Nathan has kind of earned his place at the table. He belongs there. He did it, by the way, in a place that meant a ton to him for a lot of reasons.
Yes.
So that was really, really special if you know a lot of stuff behind the scenes. But tip of the cap to both parties involved. All parties involved for that matter, because like I said, there was so much that went into that one. So kudos to that. Super psyched. A couple of weeks ago, man, I'd kind of whispered to somebody, man, I'd just love to see Chip Day go one-on-one with Hunter James. And sometimes, just the ether, you speak things into existence. That Hunter James comes out. Looks like we are going to see him at Southern
Brainbuster!
Exactly. Shades to Chip Day's past coming back to haunt him when he dropped Kyle Matthews on his head on the ramp with a brainbuster. So
is that ramp broken? I heard word that ramp was broken.
It could be. You never ever know.
We got to get a carpenter. Got to get some carpenters out there.
YJ can take care of it. He's good. Listen, I love me some Gary Lamb. I really do. And it looked like he had a blast, and it looked really good. But my joke was, Gary, stick to your day job or work on that cardio. And that's coming from a fat guy. Look, look, kudos to, it was entertaining. Alexander Left got what was coming to him, and
that kid getting his ass beat every week up there at Southern Honor, and he's getting booed. He's Mr. Booze. booze, booze, booze. How you get over? Okay, how can you get more hated everywhere you go?
He's working on it. That's for sure. He is working on it. The show itself, it was the anniversary show. Lots of times that type of environment's where you kind of want to go with the feel good, go home. Lots of heat. Look, they booked heat for days on that show. The end game had a sweep, man. Todd, the debuting CT Keys. Thank you. That's all we're gonna say is thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Helped Todd pick up a win over Gunnar Miller of all people. Like, boy, I never saw that one coming.
Todd. Heel Todd. Sorry. I enjoy watching Todd work, especially hiding behind Dan and Michelle. Lord Jesus.
He felt like he was in danger, man. Come on. Nick Kalen, picking up a win on Corey Hollis, still proving he is, best wrestler, in the state of Georgia. That thing just keeps riding with him. Judias, he's still the champion. David Ali, valiant opportunity there. Comes up short. Look, everybody again. It's heat. Cheat to sweep, if you want to call it that. They pick up 3 wins. So, and now they've added a member on top of that. Jesus, they've got all the momentum in the world up there at Southern Honor. So that's kind of, I guess, now where
Georgia's own Bobby Lashley, CT Keys. Seriously.
Yeah, I've seen him on more posters. I saw him coming up on this weekend. He's gonna be on another one. Time will tell. But Southern Honor, man, they absolutely crushed it. Good crowd, great show, just top to bottom. But look, you shouldn't expect anything different. Especially for the birthday party at Southern Honor Wrestling. So
loved it.
They absolutely crushed it. Southern Fried on Saturday.
No. We left off the match.
What?
Do you want to talk about this match here, or you want to put the Kenzie Page match in the end? And Danny.
You know what? Let's go ahead and do it. I was going to do it at the end, but yeah, let's go ahead and talk about it now.
Because I'm still excited. We were talking about WOW. We talked about NWA. I don't think we can walk off women's wrestling, especially professional women's wrestling in Georgia, without talking about Kenzie Page and Danny Jordan. The amount of good wrestling, chain type wrestling, professional wrestling, quality submission back and forth wrestling. I know Danny could do it, and I know Kenzie's good enough to be NWA champion. But this match was so well put together and worked so well. I don't even know. I can't describe it. If it comes out on IWTV, I think it needs to be seen. I think it needs to be shared. I think it needs to be sent to people who book all women shows or book shows with women. I think people in AML need to see this. I think people who book that ladies' night out at WrestleCade need to see this set match. I think people in NWA need to see this match. If you're sending your women's champion around and you want to make sure she's got a quality match, put her with Danny. If you want to make sure someone like Camille has a quality match, put her with Danny. If you want to make sure wherever your women champion goes, or you've got a woman talent.
I'm going to pause you there, because here's my argument to push back on this. How about stop sending them to face Danny? How about you just fucking sign Danny? Put her on TV. She's better than most women they're strutting out there on a lot of these, these shows that we're watching. And I think she's well deserved that she should be signed in NWA. She's well deserved that she could be wrestling in WOW. I could also make the argument she could be in NXT.
She should be at a place where she's developing her television skills.
Right. She is good enough now, today, that she proved our point of when given the opponents, she dances with the best of them.
Yeah.
So give her those opponents, whether it's NXT, it's AEW, it's NWA, it's WOW. I don't give like it's time for her to be risen up into that next level, and can show everybody what she can do. That's our take.
Yeah.
So we digress. Yeah. We'd like Danny Jordan. Put her on TV somewhere. That's the simple answer.
Well, it's not just. I mean, other people have the right to like her too. You know what I'm saying? Why should people in Georgia be the only people who get to see her? She needs to be traveling.
That's
she
kind
needs
of
to be getting booked in other places.
Yeah, 100%.
In the background here. My neighbors, they're cutting everything down around here.
Southern Fried on Saturday. Look, I'll let you start there, man. I mean, it was a great show.
Sometimes I don't know why Grandpa Booker T sits next to us. It's got to be like, you remember when your kids were young and they're like, Dad, what's this? Dad, why? Why? Dad, why? Dad, why? Because all we do is ask old Grandpa questions. And he tolerates us. Such a wonderful man, such a great source of information, and such a good friend. Thank you, Grandpa. But this was an awesome show. Southern Fried reminds me so much of Continental and the wrestling I loved as a kid. Southern Fried, once again, is another place that is just touched by the hand of Todd Sexton. If you don't know, a man who has woven his fingers through all over the state of Georgia and Georgia wrestling. I couldn't look forward to these shows anymore. I don't know where there's a problem. David Ali comes into town, Nick. David Ali gives a great match to Xavier Reyes, and then sets in play the possible dissolution of JBE. What could be going on with that?
Look, lots of stuff going on there. I love how the table is set. It's not as, and it was something, look, it was just something that happened earlier in the show. Plant that seed of doubt. Like, dude, you don't need them. You're so good.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's proving he's a player. Everywhere he's going, he's getting better, and he's better, and he's working his way up. You remember that little feud he had? He had a feud with Judias a while back. He was like, hey, he was hanging with the big dogs. I think it might be getting about his time. If he wasn't on, like, here's the thing. Hunter he was the top guy for a while. Obviously, Judias takes him down. That two right there, neck and neck, I think are the ones that are going to be breathing down. And you got CT Keys in that mix as well. So it's a crazy cluster at the top of competition for sure. So
main event,
tell where we're headed. Yeah,
so good. Main event, so well put together. Such a good match. And I'm not Mr. Three-way dance match kind of guy. I don't typically enjoy that, but it was timed perfectly. The guys are such professionals in the right place at the right time. Work so well. I can't tell you how much I sat there and enjoyed that. Judias should be champion everywhere he goes.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the win. Had a lot of fun with the Grapplers winning the championship belts. They're my favorite tag team. Seabolt, the kid, is killing it as their manager. I watched him Friday. He's running production at Southern, not running, but he's doing production at Southern Honor. It's good to see people like him learning at a young age. Of course, everybody younger than me is at a young age, but they're learning to do other aspects of the business besides wrestle or manage, so that when the older guys our age start fading backwards, the bookers, the guys that manage shows in the back, and start retiring, there's going to be a new generation of people in Georgia to take over, and maybe bigger than Georgia, but there's going to be someone to fill the shoes of the guys now that we talk about. And I think that's one of the most important things going on right now is we've got a great youth movement in Georgia wrestling, top to bottom. And I look forward to seeing that develop. The women's match, Brooklyn Creed continues to hold that championship belt, and I don't think people could be happier with that.
Yeah, I agree.
Super popular.
Yeah, the only thing coming out of the Southern Fried Show that look, I've held our tongue for a couple of weeks on it. I love Danny Only. I love Alexander Lev. I just kind of am glad that story hopefully is behind us. I just wasn't a massive fan of that story.
What's the Scott Hall story, right?
Yeah, you could go with that and say that.
It's a difficult story, and it's supposed to be a difficult story. It's supposed to. It's how we put this. It's supposed to make you uncomfortable. And the two of them did a very good job of making you uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
So I guess it was supposed to. And I'm still going to stand behind my statement that Lev should be most improved in Georgia this year. I don't think
I'll push back on you there. I've got
Okay.
one that's his competition.
Okay.
Curtis Coleman. Look at him a year ago. Look at him today. The problem, by the way, I'm not shitting on Alexander Lev when I say that comment. My take is simply, I think Curtis Coleman's run's been all year up to this point. I think Lev's come on super strong here in the last few months, if you will call it whatever. I just think that for the year. But that's, look, I'm not shitting on. Obviously, everybody knows that I think the kid's super talented, but I would put Curtis Coleman right up there.
Coleman is training. He is training people up at UWF. UWF is a very entertaining promotion. I see
it has nothing to do with any of that. It's just in the ring and his work, and he's capturing belts left and right. He's putting on some great matches all over the state at this point. I just think that would be my case. And I think to be fair and impartial, that this got to be, that name's got to be right there in that mix.
Well, we will have to continue to do our research.
Yeah.
So right now, Lev is my favorite. Coleman's your favorite for most improved. Okay.
Yeah, that's what we got. Okay. Well, man, look, I told you we were going to try to get out of here on time. We're right in that wheelhouse. So make sure, man, look, we always before we get out of here, we want to remind you to check us out over on YouTube, youtube.com. The handle's Tapped Out Pod, of course, just like anything else. Or you can search Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. Like the page, subscribe to the page, turn your notifications on, all that usual stuff. But listen, we know we're not delusional. We are fully aware that there's still a bunch of podcast listeners out there who don't want to see our ugly mugs on a daily basis. So what they do is they hit us up on the old podcast at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or any of the other podcast homes. Pretty much anywhere there is a podcast, we're there. So make sure you're checking us out, subscribing, leaving us a 5-star review. That's awesome. All that good stuff, man. But look, man, I told you we had a lot of stuff to get through. We did a great job pushing right through it. Anything else you got before we get out of here, brother?
I'm going to ask people a question today. Is social media your friend or is social media your enemy? Think about that. Especially if you're a young independent contractor. Especially if you're needing to sell your Nintendo to pay your electrical bill. Or things like that fans don't need to know.
That's what personal accounts are for.
Bingo.
So, well,
think about what you post, folks.
Yeah, 110% agree with you there, man. So what's the old saying, brother? If I've got nothing, you've got nothing. What time is it?
It's time to tap out.